So, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, I just want to thank everyone who's already supported us. So we kind of embarked on this journey 4 years ago, and trying to make a very different and new chair is challenging and also kind of I don't know, exciting. So we are well on our way. We're over 80% of the way to our goal, and so it's about a week now. So I think things look really good. Once we make the goal, this says a lot to everyone backing us. We also have investors. We have manufacturers that work with us, and they also want to know that this is going to succeed, and that helps send that message there and get us going. And we really went down this road of the campaign because we're sort of engineers, and we focused on this solution, and we've been very focused on the product. But marketing and getting the word out is important. So Indiegogo is kind of this way that we can introduce it quickly to a big number of people, and try to show this product and explain it to the people that could really help and get it out there. And we may get into that in a moment. So today we're lucky. We have Zeena Dhalla joining us, and Zeena and I met. I guess I reached out over a year ago. I was kind of looking at who's going to be attending Ergo Expo, which is the big annual event in ergonomics. And then we met at the show, and Zeena jumped on the chair, and I think you got it in about 5 seconds. And then I was demonstrating other things, and I should have known better. And Zeena's like, your neck is a little forward. And sure enough, I think a lot of us have different office work, issues. Mine, I had started doing the whole leaning forward thing. And she kind of caught that and pointed it out. And I'm like, this might be something. So I ended up needing computer glasses. So I'm now grateful to Zeena for that as well. I don't know, Zeena, do you want to say a few words? And then I think we have some things we can talk about.
Sure. First of all, I think we should maybe not call it a chair, and we should call it a sit-stand instrument is what I would like to call them Movably, because it's so different and so unique, and I'm super excited to be here because this is definitely a product that I endorse and hope to contribute just a little bit to your success. But yes, my name is Zeena Dhalla. I'm a certified postural alignment specialist, hence why I was harassing Mark about his forehead posture, as well as an ergonomist. So I am certified through the Egoscue method, which is a form of postural alignment therapy where we teach exercises to people who might have some postural dysfunction or pain to help them get into better alignment and feel better in their bodies. And then I also do ergonomics assessments for individuals. And then I also teach workshops for corporate teams in both posture and ergonomics. So this is what I live and breathe every day. I love checking out new equipment. And when I got a chance to be on the chair at the Ergo Expo almost a year ago now, I was blown away by the technology, by the adjustability, by the ergonomic element of it. So yeah, again, I'm really excited to be here to talk about it and speak to how the Movably sit-stand instrument can change your life.
Thank you, Zeena. So I thought, I tend to think of what we're doing from the chair forward. But it comes out for us as these three things that kind of we think matter. Each of us is different, right? The way we sit is different. The way we react to sitting is different. And there's this thing called
we are is different.
Yeah. So right, and then your condition coming into sitting is different over time. So one of the factors for our chair is people have different sensitivity to sitting. And we know some people can go hours and they're okay. They don't feel discomfort. And the link is, discomfort over time leads to pain, and pain over time leads to injury. So we just want to stay right at the discomfort and before discomfort end of things if we want things to work. So, but the range is quite wide. And I have to admit it, maybe I'm working on this. Mine is about 10 minutes. Any chair, I will need to adjust posture in 10 minutes or so. Other people are longer. So that's one factor people I think can ask themselves, how does it feel? In any chair, the best chair that you've had, what's that tolerance you have?
Well, and to speak to that for a moment, I think sometimes people get stuck in the mindset of it has to be a chair. It has to be a specific kind of chair. So people, when they feel that discomfort, go straight to, I must need a new chair. I get it all the time, I must need a new bed. And oftentimes I'm like, no, it's not necessarily the chair. It's how you show up in life, which again is what the Movably sit-stand instrument does, is it brings a different, unique way, right? So it just redefines the chair, so to speak. So sorry, I interrupted you. That was
yeah. So once you have that, and we can all ask ourselves that question or even do a little experiment. I think the next thing then is each of us do different things. We spend our time differently at the computer. And there we want to look at how long are those long sitting tasks you're doing? Is it something you'd like to do for several hours? Like some people get into some kind of work, like a video editor that worked with us. They get lost for hours. They're just creating a story, right? And weaving it together. Whereas other people might have tasks that are, I need to do my email for 2 hours, but I can do 10 minutes and knock out 6 emails, and then I can take my break. So I think that nature of work helps people kind of ask, like, does this work for them? And then the last piece is, instead of saying you just need this chair, I think it's, are there ways to interrupt your sitting in other ways that aren't harmful, costly, or disruptive, right? And there certainly are, right? Sit stand is a good way for a lot of people, and we want people to actually do it more often than they usually do. Sit stand was the right answer. We just don't do it enough, or perhaps we forget. So I guess that gets us to kind of like in your travels and meeting people, is that what you're seeing? And on the movement side, is that an issue?
Absolutely. It's so hard to get people to move. So when I'm teaching corporate workshops, I reference often a research study that was done recently in 2021, and it put people in 3 different groups. So the control group was sort of your normal sitting, no interventions for a long period of time. And then one group was doing posture exercise, which I'm a big fan of promoting, doing movement and stretching at the desk. So as simple as taking your hands behind you and stretching your chest, or stretching your triceps, or moving your wrists. And then the third group intervention was just simple postural shift intervention. So going from sitting to standing, or moving to the front of the chair, or, and in the case of Movably, exactly what you're doing with your postural shift interventions. And the 2 out of the 3 groups, the posture break and the postural shift intervention groups, saw a reduction in neck and back pain between 55 and 80%, a reduction in the reoccurrence, and nearly 100% in recovery time from neck and back pain. So ginormous numbers by just simply adding movement to the table, simply adding movement. It didn't necessarily matter which one, because both of those groups, kind of moved forward in terms of those numbers. So what I love about the Movably is it creates that automatic movement throughout your day. It prompts you to do it, because the hardest part is getting people to do it. And I have looked at nearly everything, Mark. I have tried, the posture devices where the buzz people behind you. I have tried the sitting things where it buzzes beneath you, and people end up tuning it out at some point, right? We get deep into our work. If you're dealing with the film editor who sits for hours in front of a computer, or computer programmer, more often we get a lot of tech people with back and neck pain and postural dysfunction. It is hard to get them to do it. So again, being in a device that prompts you, and it is part of, it's not designed to sit with your both feet up for long periods of time, right? That is not why you're spending the money on this particular device. You're spending it to give you that cueing and that prompting. And then the hope is that it becomes an automatic thing where you're not even thinking about it anymore, right? I mean, many of us have driven down the freeway and our mind is wandering, and all of a sudden we're, in a different town or different state, and we don't remember how we got there, right? And that's what the hope here with this is, it becomes such a part of your lifestyle that you don't need the reminders. You don't need, I would love it if you took a couple stretch breaks and some postural work and, reminders to get the head back and things like that. But in general, your chair solves a ton of the problems.
Yeah, we I think one of the impressions we have, because we often show people a time lapse and then see this person moving and look quickly. And I think people think it's like exercise. And I love exercise. Exercise is really important. But we aren't really exercise. We're much simpler. We're introducing what we call a gross posture change, ideally every 3-4 minutes. And that's that amount that keeps you far away from the static harm beginning. So one of the things I kind of dug into, because we hear these recommendations, sit 30 minutes, move 5 minutes, sit 45 minutes. My hunch is part of that is a compromise where we didn't have a way to move more often without interrupting work. So we all had to agree, let's go with 30 minutes and hope people, do that. So I think we're in this weird place that in our chair, here I go again, I've said it a little more frequent, but it's not a problem. 3 minutes is not a lot. It's not exercise. It's just freeing your hips and abs. We'll do a little work for a few seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And if I could speak just specifically to the biomechanics of what the Movably chair does is, so if you're looking at Mark from the side angle, he's actually doing something called a flamingo position. Now, when we sit static for long periods of time, Mark, is it easy for you to go into a seated position there so people can see?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. I know how easy it is to move in that chair. So when you're sitting at your desk for long periods of time like this, your body is in what we call a hip flex position. So Mark, put your fingers in your hip creases so people can see what we're talking about here. Yeah, right there. So those are where your hip flexor muscles are. And so those muscles get really tight. They can get very locked up. They can get very static, especially if someone is sitting. Mark is sitting beautifully because that chair has wonderful lumbar support. But if you're sitting in kind of even like that round back position where your pelvis kind of tucks under and then the posture becomes really kyphotic or really slouchy, that turns off the hip flexors. And so there's a lot, you mentioned the hips, there's a lot that the hips need to do through life for us to be functioning properly. In fact, one of my favorite positions that I get my clients to do is something called a deep squat, because we really need work in the hip flexors. Well, here's what the Movably chair does, is it works those hip flexors. So when you're in a flamingo position and you have one leg up and one leg down, you have one hip, which is in a hip flex position, and one leg which is in a hip extended position. So you're getting a little separation in the hips. You're getting work in that hip flexor, which is what we need. You're also getting work in the standing leg. So your gluteus medius muscle is getting strength and work here because it's forcing you to balance. And it's not, again, excessive exercise. It's just mild activation. And as a postural alignment specialist, when I give people exercises, I say exercises, but oftentimes they're just mild activation activities. And the Movably does this automatically just through moving you through right leg to left leg to right leg to left leg. Another reason why I love it is it creates symmetry in the body, right? So if you have someone at a standing desk, and oftentimes we'll say, hey, go in the flamingo. A lot of times because standing for long periods of time are just as bad as sitting, as we know, right? And so we'll sometimes get clients with a complaint of a lower back pain. So we'll advise them to kind of stand in a flamingo position, to put their foot up in a pad or a footstool or something like that. But how do you guarantee that client's going to get symmetry? They might really lean on one leg excessively throughout the day because their brain just feels more comfortable on that left leg. And now we're feeding in to potential asymmetrical compensation patterns, correct? So again, the Movably forces that symmetry from going from right to left. So some of my really asymmetrical clients and their glutes and hip flexors would really benefit from being forced to go from right to left. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. One of the things early on when we did the research study, we want to make it fair, is 2 hours sitting, 2 hours standing, and 2 hours with our chair. What we did find, and of course we all do this, our chair has stand. You can flamingo without support, right? It's a different bodily posture than flamingo with supported leg.
Correct. Yep.
And then you sit and you do your flamingos. But everybody kind of ended up with this recline. And so you'll stand if you're kind of like really focused, but a lot of times you'll just also relax into it. And that's wonderful. So the joke I say, when I first started showing the chair and I explained it to people, one of the early things, they do this and then they start leaning back and then they do this and they love this.
Yeah.
They're like, well, no, the chair does a lot more, but I know that feels good. But people like the recline. So I think you and I need to come up with some new exercises that go with our chair that introduce a lot more than just what we're doing, beyond what we're doing.
I mean, absolutely. I could come up with a whole 30-minute class in your chair and we could have a lot of fun with it. But I think, and I did see there's a question in the chat about sciatica, so I'll get to it in a moment. But why that feels so good, Mark, is that you are, when we go into a little bit of an extension of the spine or a leaning back of the spine, remember, we're like this all day long, right? Our bodies are in that kyphosis and flex position. So this just feels good, get the weight in the glutes and open up the chest and shoulders and get a little arch position in the lumbar spine. So yeah, that is, I'm sure that feels good, but obviously we want to encourage the customers to utilize the chair the way that it was designed to be utilized, which is to take us through those movements and those positions on a regular basis. And then I know that there is a question in the chat about sciatica. All right, so there's many ways that we can get sciatica, or many root causes of sciatica, but one of the major ones is piriformis syndrome. So piriformis syndrome is when our muscle and our piriformis here, which is a muscle that kind of goes horizontally across our glutes, and it's in the deep layers of the glute muscles. When that gets that muscle gets over tight and it becomes inflamed, it can then inflame the sciatica nerve, which runs right beneath it. And the piriformis syndrome is often resolved by getting a stronger glute complex and getting our pelvis into a better position. If you're sitting all day long, your glutes are going to get weak. We talked about the movably chair and the flamingo position strengthening that gluteus medius muscle. So yes, the movably chair can be really great for people with sciatica because it can help to reduce the chances that you might get that really tight piriformis by strengthening your glutes, strengthening your hip flexors, and promoting a stronger, more capable pelvis to support your body so that you don't get into that, really irritating sciatica. Now, if somebody is experiencing sciatica, I do have to say, go get treatment, all that fun stuff. Definitely go check out your doctor. But I definitely firmly say that this would be a great prevention tool to help get you stronger so that you're not, back in that pain or you recovered from it. It's a great tool to help with getting to the other side of it, and then, sort of a maintenance tool.
We touched on it last time. One of my colleagues, co-founder Jose, he had a back injury and he also has a herniated disc, which, he took care of and anything. But he specifically, he cannot sit long at all. So he goes to kneel, he kneels on the ground, he goes through all these things. But his current thing is he also plays soccer, and he finds that if he doesn't have the chair the day after he does soccer, he's much stiffer, and he really likes it for those days after the soccer game day, and things like that. So it's fascinating, these things that seem unrelated, but they are, I think.
Yeah. The perfect phrase for that, motion is lotion. So
right.
It is very much.
Wish I had thought of that. Yeah.
Everybody, we really just need to be moving more. We were meant to be hunters and gatherers, and we are no longer that. And now people could say, so once you get to the point, as you mentioned, Mark, once you get to the point of injury, then that's the point of it becomes challenging, right? Then you're mitigating your injury. But if we can capture people before they get to that point, right at the beginning of discomfort, like you mentioned, because the majority of the time the discomfort is coming from immobility or a postural dysfunction that is going to eventually turn into an injury if we don't get it resolved. And that postural dysfunction can be solved through proper motion, through proper lotion. And the body, if we get the body into a better position, stronger hips, stronger back, stronger hip flexors, stronger glutes, we can oftentimes avoid and get the body healthy again.
Thank you, Zeena. Thank you. I think you're preaching to the choir, but I think this is the common message we're all trying to get out. And I think people are kind of adopting this thinking more and more now, which we have to. So
I know, and it's hard as an ergonomist because my head sometimes is a little bit split because the ergonomics industry is still sort of chair breaks, sit, stand, desk. They haven't really gotten as far as I would like to see the industry get to. So it's really nice to be, again, associated with you and your sit, stand instrument and the innovation that it brings to the market, which is really exciting. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And I know you have people to help, and I'm glad you're doing it. So.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying. We're working on it.
All right, we'll have to have you on again. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, see ya. And it was great to have Zeena. It's always great to see her. And I thought we would just, we have a little bit of time left, so I think there are also going to be some questions, perhaps, or maybe you've got questions out there. Or here we go. We've got a question. Can you show us the power cord and how it connects to the chair? Yes, I think in some of our videos and so on, I think people didn't see where the cord goes. So it's kind of like any device. It does have a cord. In fact, today I left it. You should be able to see it at the bottom of my side view here. So there's a cord and it goes to a power supply. And the way we've got it underneath the chair is however your chair is, whether it's up against a wall or under the desk usually, the power cord can come out the front, the sides, or the back of the base of our chair. So it's hidden underneath, and then it comes out to wherever is closest to where you can plug it in. So yeah, it's pretty simple. It's just like a computer power supply. So that's about that. And so can you tell us about how we could get financial coverage through insurance for part or all of the cost? So yeah, this is something we are looking into. And so I'm going to share my information, but it's kind of like, don't rely solely on what I'm sharing. It's what we're learning and we're starting to figure out. There are chairs that are have been purchased with, for example, HSA or FSA funds. And to do that today, you can't just go do it. You would need something called a letter of medical necessity. And you would get this from someone like your doctor or chiropractor. And you would submit that to whoever processes your HSA and FSA. And there's help we can get you on writing that letter and so on. We haven't talked to every chiropractor and physical therapist, but we've talked to many, and all of them, they understand what we're doing very quickly. And so for them, it's very easy to understand the benefit, and particularly if it could be helpful for you. So they should be supportive of this. So currently that's the process. And of course, we'll kind of work toward where to make that easier so that it's sort of something that's qualified for those purchases more automatically. So that's what we know right now. And you can probably write to our support, and we'll maybe point you to some references of how that could happen. So, yeah. And as far as I looked into it, I think desks aren't qualifying. So those are no-nos. Like they're not really, the standing desks aren't, but certain chairs are. And then the ergonomics of a treadmill desk.
I can speak to that if you want.
Yeah, yeah. If you've got the time, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually been reading the research on this because I get this question all the time. So there's definitely benefits that they're finding in the research, obviously, because as we talked, motion is motion, exercise is movement is what we need as human beings. But there are pretty significant risk factors. It is challenging to walk on a treadmill desk and type at the same time. So there is a significant fall risk. So, and because Mark and I were talking about how what we're doing at the Movably is not exercise per se, it's those movement snacks, like I think is the word that you use. Postural shift interventions is the word that they used in the study that I referenced. But the treadmill desk is technically exercise. So do we need to be exercising 8 hours a day? Probably not, right? So your treadmill desk you would want to be using in more short stints. So if you do have a treadmill desk, get on it 30, 60 minutes maybe, and then kind of call it a day from there. But that's usually the recommendation I give when people ask about the treadmill desk.
Oh, great. Yep. Yeah. We definitely look at treadmill desks. We understand what their role is and all of that. And there was a big study, and on the health side, because they are exercise, they just show up great. And it is a good thing. So for a meeting, a Zoom meeting or so on, it can kind of be a fun thing to have. We also know that it depends on the person, but because you're on a treadmill, you're constantly activating a balance kind of function. Keyboarding, typing, and mouse become really much harder to do. And they've measured this. So on average, productivity drops for quite a while. It's like 30 to 40% if you do for that kind of focused work. If that part of it comes in. And again, everyone's different, and some people have had great success. So that's fantastic. So that's covering just a couple questions. And so I have one last announcement to make, which is something we queued up in our VIP group. So we want to announce the winner of our early delivery. So as you know, we've been hand making these pre-production units. You might have heard about. We have a small handful, and we're testing them and finishing them. And these get sent to the factories and then turned into volume production. But we have one that we can give away. So we're going to give it to, the winner is Felice. We're going to aim for February to get you an early delivery of a chair. And so it's contributor number 37 is the winner of the early delivery of our chair. So, and Felice, thank you for backing this. And I'm kind of excited to get this to you early. And with that, I think we're going to wrap up. Kind of glad you took a break from your day and joined us. And I think we'll be signing off. So thank you. Thank you, Zeena. Thank you, everybody.